All right, welcome everybody. This is Tiger Lily. Today is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, May the 6th. And welcome to Wake the Unicorns. This is episode 4 of Riddle Me This, where we try to wake the unicorns by asking some questions that most people aren't. So here we go. The first question actually today, I'm just going to back up and say, what is coronavirus? What is coronavirus? There are now so many different versions of what this could be, it's not even funny. So let's talk about Pompeo was seen in an interview, and I'm trying to remember the exact clip. It was one of the mainstream outlets where when the lady asked him, the reporter asked him, whether this was man-made, whether he believed that it was man-made, and what he answered was that the intel community's latest or most recent understanding or assertion was that it is in fact man-made, and that he has no reason to believe that they would be misunderstood at this juncture, that they wouldn't have the answer. And then she said, actually right now the latest information from the intelligence community is that it's not man-made, so are you saying that it is? And he says, yeah, whatever the intelligence community said, I agree with. What? Okay, for those of you who don't know who Secretary Pompeo is the Secretary of State. He's the guy who organizes all of the interactions with other government organizations. He's the one who should know this. He's the right-hand man of President Trump in all of his press briefings. Like, he's been front and center in the coronavirus task force. Let's start there. He should know. He should know what the latest of the intelligence community's information is on this thing. I don't know. So let's talk about, there was a press conference where Pompeo said, in a moment where he was answering a question, he said, "This is a live exercise." Those were the words that came out of his mouth in the flow of his answer to the question that had been asked by one of the reporters at this press conference. Now, here's the thing. People say stuff, and they have slips of the tongue, and we have Freudian slips, and then we have slips that are just slips, I think. I could be debated by a psychologist on that one, but I'm going to say that I sometimes feel like I have slips that I didn't intentionally or even subconsciously mean. They just come out, because sometimes your tongue just doesn't respond the way that you think it's going to, and those are glitches of the mind, not necessarily slips of hidden truths that you're trying to keep hidden secret. Now, that being said, Pompeo has also literally been quoted on camera as saying, "We lie, we cheat, we steal," such that he has earned the nickname, "We lie, we cheat, we steal Pompeo," talking about the CIA being notoriously just, that is what they do. Right? So all of these things are just in regards to Pompeo, but then shifting to this new thing that's coming out, which actually is not new at all. It's just only now starting to hit the mainstream media, which means that you know that it's already been in the alternative media for quite some time. But this thing is documentation showing that in 2014, the United States banned the type of research into viruses of this nature. Okay, let's back it up. If it is the case that coronavirus is a man-made virus and that it is designed to kind of like wreak havoc on people, then the people who made that man-made virus would have been in breach of this specific law. This specific law is to prevent specifically that kind of thing happening. A leak of a virus from a lab that gets out and kills a bunch of people because that virus was particularly lethal and they made it that way, or they found it and were handling it, that kind of thing. So the United States government, in short, the Department of Health, I believe, was banning this in 2014, and that was an official thing. Now, in 2014, Barack Obama was president, and Dr. Fauci was I believe he was head of the NIH, the National Health Institute of Health. But so under his Obama rule, under Fauci and Obama, those are the two people who were in place at this time. This type of research is banned, and then Dr. Shi is the name of the doctor who went ahead and published in 2015 that she was still working on this type of virus, still working specifically to look at how to make it more lethal, more infectious, that kind of thing. Okay, and this 2015 publication that Dr. Shi publishes is directly the study that was funded by what they're now saying was Dr. Fauci, which, let's take a step back. What the media is telling you right now is that Dr. Fauci funded this Dr. Shi to work on these viruses in Wuhan, even though this research had been banned in 2014. But if you dig a little bit deeper, you will actually find that Dr. Shi, prior to working in Wuhan, was working in South Carolina at a United States lab of a very similar type as the Wuhan lab that everybody's pinning as the one that got out, which is the one that Dr. Shi ended up at, again, after she had already been studying this here in the United States. North Carolina. It was the University of North Carolina. So again, in 2014, this program was shut down that Dr. Shi was later carrying up the research of. And now they're all saying Fauci's going to testify to the Senate. Is this something that Trump is going to encourage him to do or to not do? Now, Trump and Fauci and the WHO have all kind of been at odds in the recent weeks, but it hasn't been like really unfolding why until I think now. So a couple weeks ago, Trump was making a big thing about how he's going to cut funding to the WHO and all of that, and people are like, well, and it's like, well, the WHO is privately funded, so it makes sense. And yeah, if they were an organization that should have had a better handle on all of this, which in theory that is their designation, I don't know, guys, like, again, questions. It's really curious what coronavirus is. Is it man-made? Does the Secretary of State know this information? What is coronavirus? Second question is, why the Space Force? Why now? Why is all of this stuff with the Space Force happening right now? There's military funding going to it. There's military activations happening right now. People being recalled into from the National Guard and from the reserves. It's just really interesting. I'm reading my notes. Let's see. Oh, and I found something else saying that Trump is now looking. So if you guys don't know, let me actually back up. In very recent weeks, and going back, I mean, it's been a little bit, probably several months since the first thing that I saw that he did, but Trump he designated a new branch of the military called I think it's called the Space Force, and he has said that he is designated funding to that, and there have been other headlines that have come out basically hinting at the further ongoing development, that this thing is moving forward, and who knows at this point, like, what its trajectory is or what it's already focused on or how long it's been in development prior to actually being announced and all that kind of stuff. But I'm curious why now Trump is going ahead with some more specific things, and it seems like the cadence in between these things that he's doing are continuing to speed up. So I don't know, get on DuckDuckGo, not Google, get on DuckDuckGo or one of these other browsers that isn't going to track your privacy and tell you what to think, because if you didn't already know, if you search on Google, Google is giving you what they want you to know, and Google is directly linked to the CIA. Food for thought. Look it up, though, is my point. Look up the Space Force. Look up Trump announcements, Space Force. Look up executive orders, because he's done some of those. There is apparently now a moon mining operation that the United States is apparently... Here's the thing, guys. There are a few, I think, minerals or substances, and forgive me, I'm not super educated on this piece of it, but there are some substances that I'm being able to see are coming out in terms of the argument of now what do we do when we are clearly going to need to pivot from oil production, but, these things may be found on the moon, is apparently what this is leading to, is I don't know. Look it up, though. Look it up. Some of these things I'm just kind of like seeing snippets and being like, what the? And others of these things that just like won't go away. It's like really heavy in the news cycles and the lists of people that I follow and things that I'm looking at. But I think that the more awareness we have of some of these superficial things, the more that people are going to be able to dig into what really interests them, and the more conversation that we can have that is rich and full of more data and full of more rabbit holes that you would go down that I wouldn't go down. So why the Space Force? Why now? Let's see. Why was the CARES Act dated or introduced on January 24th, 2019? So the CARES Act is the acronym is CARES. It's the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. The CARES Act, the Patriot Act, I don't know, seems pretty similar. But the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act is supposedly this new piece of legislation, you would think, that has been introduced in order to address the coronavirus epidemic or pandemic and the chaos surrounding it. But if you actually look at the CARES Act, it was introduced, the date on it is January 24th, 2019, and then if you go through the actual edits, documentation, and shout out to the Last American Vagabond, who's the one who covered this in the first place I saw it. If you actually scroll through that act, he shows in his video where he covers it that the bill has dates of updates that are made to it, and the dates have a number of updates all the way up until July of 2019, and then they just stop. And then all of a sudden, March 2020, they resume updates to the bill. And one of those updates is a change of the name. So here's the thing. Let me back up and reiterate. The change of the name is the bill wasn't introduced as CARES Act. It was introduced as something different, and it was changed to the CARES Act. And the question is, why would it have been introduced as something else, and then nothing happens to it, and then in March it suddenly is just super conveniently perfectly already written to adopt it and just change the name and apply it to this completely unforeseen pandemic that nobody would have had any idea was happening. But oh wait, we did have an idea it was happening, because Event 201 was literally an event orchestrated to basically run a drill on what would happen if a coronavirus pandemic broke out and affected the world. Event 201, look it up on YouTube. Guys, these are questions that I think we should be asking because they don't make any sense. They don't, the thing that we are being told is clearly not making any sense. And you guys probably, if you, depending on, I don't know where you're at with your headspace on this, leave me some comments, let me know, give me a temperature gauge on who I'm talking to right now, because I'm really honestly curious how many of you guys buy this whole package that they're trying to sell us, when even they can't keep their story straight for more than a few days in a row. When they're saying things like, oh, we're going to consider whether or not we need to revise the CDC guidelines on wearing masks. And then they come out and say, oh, we're expecting that the CDC is probably going to release new information about wearing masks. And then days and days later, then the CDC comes out and has new regulations advising people to wear masks. It's like, why is everything so politicized? In a situation where a sickness that doesn't have any care, whether you have a Democrat or a Republican stamp on your ticket, like these things shouldn't actually matter, and yet everything is coming down to that politicizing nature that we do with that duality paradigm, that left and right, that black and white, that yes or no, that we're better than you because there are only two options. That's not real. That's not real life. Life is not binary. And so for us to start having this color the way that we handle a pandemic that apparently is killing people, like if that's the focus that we have right now, we've got problems, I think. So again, questions to ask, and questions to, even if you don't think you're going to find an answer by asking, I think that it's important that we ask these questions, because if you say, riddle me this, and somebody doesn't have a good answer, what does that spur? It spurs conversation. It spurs a thought process. It spurs an open-mindedness just in the process of holding a thought in your head that contradicts or asks you to contradict something that you have previously believed, or something that you've previously been told and kind of had a gut feeling that you didn't really know if it was true or not. Like, most of you guys are having these gut feelings about this whole event and don't exactly know what those gut feelings are because you don't know where to look. So that's why I'm doing this. Riddle me this. Ask somebody these questions, like and share, subscribe to this channel, find us on united.vibration on Instagram, and follow this channel as well. Hit the subscribe and the little notifications bell so that you can get notified of when I start going live with these videos. And talk to you later, guys. Go wake up some unicorns.